Computer. All right. So you guys get Sharon and I this morning.
Ooh.
And I am just like, personally, I am just rejoicing that Sharon gets to do this with me. So all of us can just, who've been here for a minute, we're just so happy, Sharon, that your brain is here and with us, and
Mhm.
you can try to keep my brain in line. So good luck with that. Okay, so we're actually starting on chapter 25. So usually we're doing 4 chapters a week, and Sharon and I both were a little surprised that we get to turn over into the next section. So it basically almost means that we've got 5 chapters that we're doing. So we're going to try to leave a little bit of extra time for that last chapter, just because there's going to be some extra things. But chapter 25 starts out with, what's your holding pattern protecting you from? Delay does not mean denial. Refuse to become anxious because your goal takes longer than you'd like. I feel like we could camp on this chapter for a lot of our morning. Eddie, what else?
Yeah. For me, this was actually one of my favorite chapters that I've read so far in this book. And she shares the story about how she was delayed on a plane for a couple of hours with a thunderstorm. So right away, where my mind went for me, and there's a point to this, is when I lived in Australia, I one time was on a plane and I got delayed because of a cyclone. And I was not just delayed by a couple of hours, I was delayed and terrified by my life or for my life, sent to a completely different city and delayed by about 5 or 6 days because it destroyed the place that I was working, where I was trying to go. Right. So, I just think, man, holding patterns can look so different. Sometimes it really is just an hour where we can sit back and take a nap, right? And just chill out, and it's just a thunderstorm and the plane just circles. Other times it's a major, major setback, right? And it's years, right? And for me, I just, that spoke to me, right? So I know that, I think what makes it a holding pattern, right, is that it is a circumstance that is actually beyond your control. So we talk so much about things that are within your control, and it's within your control, and it's your responsibility to do this. And that's good. And that is true 95% of the time. It really is, right? But for 5% of the time, big stuff happens that is so far beyond your control and is going to completely wipe out and flatten life as you know it, or it's going to derail the best laid plans, all of those things. And I think it's so important for us to recognize that when it happens, and to be able to sit in that. So I guess like a question that I had, and this is like maybe early, everybody's brains are maybe just getting going. But if a holding pattern is an opportunity to rest and dig into self-reflection and growth, or it's like a stop, what are some times that you can look back in the past and you can see where God put up a holding pattern in your life? Where, we call it different things at different times. I've never heard it called a holding pattern before. I've heard it, where God closes a door, somewhere he opens a window. Right? I've heard that saying and stuff before. But when can you look back in your life and see something that you thought, okay, my plans have been completely derailed, I've been stopped, but God knew what he was doing all along, right? It's always easier to look back in the past. Anyone have any examples?
Yeah, I think I haven't read this chapter, so I'm just jumping on this morning. But to answer your question, I think for me, was definitely that pause when COVID hit. Everything just shut down and we were forced to kind of just slow down. And looking back, honestly, that year of uncertainty was honestly a huge blessing for our family. Like, all sports shut down, all, extracurricular activities shut down, and we were forced to just be a family. Like, we made pasta together, we did crafts together, we did all these things together. And honestly, my business grew as well because I had time to actually pour into that, and people were hungry for that opportunity too. But yeah, I look back and that was definitely a positive. It was a huge blessing at the time.
Yeah, I love that. I know, like for us, when Nolan wasn't living with us after we moved to Regina, for however long we were here. Sharon, I'm just gonna mute you for like 2 seconds. I know that so for those of you who don't know, my husband moved us to Regina for 2.5 years, while he was still trying to get a transfer. So we were going back and forth 3 hours just, to see him during it. It was over COVID as well, but only 2018 to 2020 fall. Our question was always like, God, how long is this going to take? Like, how long are you going to leave us here? And one of the things that we really came to realize was there are strengths that he has and there are strengths that I have, but neither of us felt the need to grow in the areas that we were weak in, because the other one would just come alongside and just sort of pick up for the other one. And so we had to become strong in those other areas as well, because we were both living independently, and there would have never been a necessity for us to grow individually, because we were, I don't know if it was an unhealthy dependence, but it certainly wasn't something that was encouraging me to grow in different things, right? Like I had to be able to grow in my ability to deal with finances. I needed to be able to grow in my ability to problem solve. He wasn't there all the time, and so it really did bring out better qualities. And I remember God very audibly saying, what if you depended on me in this season instead of each other? Because when you're in a relationship, it is often easier, even if you are focused on God, it's easier to become interdependent rather than God dependent for those things that you are missing. So that was a holding pattern that really caused growth in both of us. Don't want to go back, but anybody else?
And I thought of one more example, for me with plexus, as I was reading this chapter, I can be very specific with the holding pattern in plexus. So for anyone, I think most of you have been around for a while. So a little bit, of what my story is when I finally decided I was going to do the business, I shot to gold really quickly. Right. And, that was good. And that was in 2019, I guess it would have been, right? That's when we all went to Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was shortly after that I actually started feeling really sick, and we didn't know why. And then it was the pandemic, and then it was, and we didn't know why. And I was still trying to do all the right things with the business, and I was doing my IPA, and I was doing all of these things, and nothing was moving. And then I got slammed, with my my health stuff, with my tumor, with all of that stuff that happened. And that just flattened our family in a way that you can't imagine. Right. And for years, like I'm 2 years out of the surgery. It's going to take at least 5 years to recover, is what I was told. So I feel like for me that I'm actually stuck in a holding pattern with plexus. I feel like I'm doing some stuff now, but in the last 3 years, when I've been taken out, everybody that I started with, y'all have like shot to, if you're actually doing the business, you've shot up to, senior gold, ruby, senior ruby, emerald, right? And I'm still gold, right? And I think it's a choice in it as well to trust the process, right? And that doesn't mean it's always fun. It's actually kind of sucky, right? Because I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like I don't know anyone who's right at my rank anymore, right? I actually don't even know who that person is, to be honest, right? And I've had uplines drop off and all kinds of stuff, right? It's kind of just me now, right? And it's a holding pattern that was beyond my control. It's not always fun, but at the same time, trust the process. The story's not done yet, right? So I just, for anyone that feels like they're in a holding pattern with this business, trust the process, you guys, right? It's not done yet. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that perspective, Sharon. I love that. So chapter 26 was basically, I love this book because I promise that my brain, it's almost like if I believe, I don't quite believe that, but it's almost like my brain is creating what needs to be read as I'm going through different things in my life. And chapter 26 was me this week. Is your busyness based in fear? Point to ponder. When you say yes to things that are not purposeful for you, you are saying no to your real priorities. Did anyone get called out on that one? Anybody? Anybody guilty of saying yes too many times and not actually realizing that even if you say yes because you want to be helpful and you know you can help, it means that you are actually closing a door on things that are your priorities. I would love to hear from you guys. And of course, her quote at the top, busyness can serve as a distraction from our reality, unfulfilling circumstances, or broken relationships. Sharon, do you have any thoughts on that? I do want to give an example, but I want to kind of give some space for thoughts and feedback first.
Yeah. Well, I know I've been guilty of that in the past, right? Different things. I mean, no, this is vulnerable. I didn't know I was going to say this, but even when I was first involved in Plexus, to be honest, I threw myself in part into the business because I was lonely, right? I didn't have friends. I didn't have support. I maybe had a marital relationship that currently was not in an ideal place, all of these different things. So I was saying yes, and I was avoiding life, right? And I wasn't necessarily doing what I was called to do and deal with what I was called to deal with. That's not Plexus's fault. That was my fault, right? But just that's brutal honesty. Don't put me on the
No,
spot.
that's a huge insight. And I think that that's really valuable for people.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your vulnerability. And that just reminded me of how far things have come. And guys, there is not a day that goes by that I don't appreciate the relationships that I've made with this business. And the people that I've gotten to walk through, and Sharon is definitely one of those people. Like, we have history. And I love that. And if you're new, welcome to you are creating your own history, and we get to be part of it. And we really appreciate that. Like, I love that we get to do these things. And I think part of committing to book club is personal growth and getting into the nitty gritty with people. I have a situation in my life, and I'm going to speak relatively vaguely because I'm putting this on YouTube. I have a situation in my life where I've accepted something that takes up a certain amount of my time in blocks. And it's relatively flexible, but it's not something that I realized this week that even though I have fun when I do it, and I'm really happy to help when I get to go and I do those things, it really is not aligned with my goals. It's not aligned with my purpose. It will not bring me further forward in where I want to go or where God is leading me to go. It is not helping to support my family. It's like all of these things, and I think we talked about it last week about how Craig Rochelle, who leads Life Church, often, like, he was, their church often every year will cut good ministries, not because they're bad, but because they're not serving the purpose or the direction that they're going. And so I've realized that there's this thing in my life right now that I'm like, it's not bad. I actually have a lot of fun when I get to go do it, but it's not serving me. And so I really had to ask myself. And so now I'm actually, and I'm not usually one that's like, oh, what will people say if but in this situation, I'm involved with other people. And I don't want anyone to misconstrue why I would be saying, hey, I can't do this any longer. um, because I love the people and I have fun. And it's not because it's a bad environment that I'm saying that I need to say, I haven't said it yet, but I need to say, hey, I need to step away. Like this is a chapter in my life I need to close, and I'm thankful for it. But I don't want people to misunderstand, right? And I thought there were some really great tools that are examples, right? In here. Number one, what do you really want to say in this situation? One of the most disarming ways to say no is to tell the person how anxious you feel about saying it. And I was like, oh, wow. Like even they say, I'm not sure if you'll even understand, but I really hope you will. Right. It's almost going back to that exactly what to say thing. Like, I don't know if this is for you or not. And so then they're trying to figure out, in their minds, well, maybe it is for me. And they're trying to find evidence to say, well, it is. So maybe if I say in this situation, I'm not sure if you'll understand, I'm hoping that maybe that will elicit understanding from the individual that I need to talk to about it. So yeah, super interesting. When I opened this chapter, I'm like, well, look at that. Isn't that just a lovely little affirmation that I need to go and close that chapter this week? Anyone else have any thoughts on 26?
Amy does.
I do. Oh, Amy and then Trish.
Awesome. Yes.
I think the other piece is saying yes and saying no. So no to what's not going to bring you purpose or joy and fun, because sometimes we actually need to say yes to having fun. But saying no to the good so that you can say yes to the great.
Yes.
And everybody's good and great is different. And it's different today than it was 6 months ago, than it will be from 6 months from now. And so I was looking at a program and like what that looked like in commitment. And my husband was like, you don't have time for that. My husband was saying, no, I think you've got enough on your plate. And I'm looking at him like, I have a kid graduating. I need to fill a hole. This is a pretty good hole to fill it with. Yeah, this is a good hole to fill it with. And he's like, well, why don't you do this and this and this? And I'm like, nope, those might fill the hole for you, but they're not going to fill the hole for me. And so I need help with ideas that you're going to be supportive of and that fill the hole. And he kept saying, you're too busy. And I'm looking at him like, no, I am not going to wash more dishes just because you think I needed to. I'm not
bring me joy.
I'm not going to wash the floor twice a week because you think I need to. It's just not going to happen.
I think that the other thing, Amy, that you just like, before I forget it, because you just brought my brain to this, is that when we say no to something, we're actually opening the door for the right person to walk into that situation to say yes to it for them. So I don't know who's going to say yes to doing your dishes because that's the right thing for them, but I think you should find someone.
Yeah, the chores that I listed that were supposed to be done last weekend by the people under 20 in my household, they got too busy and didn't get it done.
What are they going to eat off of? That's interesting.
Oh yeah, but you actually don't want to count the number of plates in my house because we have 6 people and we could probably go a month without washing a plate.
Oh, heavenly days. Okay. Well, but you also combined a couple of households. So, I mean, there's that.
Well, and when we have family, our family starts with 20 people.
Right.
And then we add from there. So, but when we're looking at based on fear, and I'll pick my business because interestingly enough, it was kind of in a holding pattern. I was doing the personal growth, I thought. I was doing the stuff, I thought. I was stepping out of my comfort zone. But I was not having those really difficult, hard, uncomfortable discussions with people that were in business with me. They were there. I already had them. I needed to make up my discomfort because stepping out and engaging other people in conversation is discomfort. And so I'll do that discomfort. But that fear of doing it wrong. So I'll put off that conversation. I'll put nibbles, like I'll just suggest this and suggest that and maybe this, and really soft. And so part one, saying, no matter what my points in my back office look like, I am a leader and I can do this. Number two, maybe they don't understand as much as I think they understand. And number three, I have to do it bad before I'm going to be able to do it good. And telling my kids that is, one thing, but telling yourself that you're going to have a bad conversation, and a bad conversation that involves a little conflict is so outside. I'm a peacekeeper. That's my personality. And so stepping outside my personality, stepping outside my comfort, all those things I was too busy, and it was fear-based.
Wow.
And I did some really bad. And I'm still here. I'm still alive. And
You
God
didn't die.
God's going to work on all the mess that I, flung.
That's amazing awareness, Amy. That's awesome. Trisha had
I
some.
think Amy just called me out. I think Amy just called me out. Thanks, Amy.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I'll just tell you what I was thinking about first was my son, who is almost 16. And this week he called me and he was like, Mom, I forgot a belt. My pants are going to fall down at the award ceremony. Can you grab me a belt and get it? And I think I need Dad's because I don't have any that fit me. And of course I was going to go home. It was my night to get lots of plexus done. And here I am running around for him. And one of the things that my daughter keeps saying, Mom, when are you going to stop rescuing him? It's time. Like, she keeps saying this. My daughter's 18. And so I came to this conclusion that I am done. Grade 11, that's the responsibility he is going to start taking on, is he has to be ready or else suffer the consequences. And I think that there is just saying, I'm opening the door for him to now take responsibility by saying no and saying, yep, this is on you now. And yeah, so that's kind of my connection with that, is saying yes to that created busyness. And then I didn't get this done, and, affects my time. And it's really not serving him well either. So
I was going to bring up a little something and actually just asking you guys to pray about it, but yes, something major going on that I'm a part of, helping a family. And yeah, I feel a little like me saying yes to things is causing just what you said, Trisha, for somebody else. Sorry. When I say no to something, it opens the door for somebody else to say yes, to possibly be helpful. I can't go much into it, but yeah, it's been a really heavy week. And to be honest, it was really hard to come on this morning because I have a lot on my mind. And I've just been very much perplexed with how to support, right? And this is a question that if you're part of a church leadership or in church, is we need to have, this is one of these things where, God commands us to go out and make disciples and help and be there for people, but to what extent? And where is it that we're hindering them more in their healing because we do too much? Anyways, this is all speaking to myself, but very serious situation right now. And it's on a couple shoulders, myself and another lady in the church. Yeah. So, and I leave on Wednesday morning, Nashville. Yes. So if you guys can just pray that God will either slam this door, like, yeah, slam it, or that, yeah, something will come through today. Somebody will send me a message to say that they can help with watching their littlest one. So that's where I'm at right now. So if you guys can just pray, that's very vague, but just pray. And just the doors will open or close. And the Lord will just show me what to do next. Yeah.
I'm always reminded of that, like the glass versus the plastic juggling balls, right? Like we're all trying to juggle kids things and ministry and serving and volunteering in our business. And you can only juggle so many balls before they fall, right? Which ones are the ones that we don't want to break if they drop, right? So the ones that are plastic, maybe set those ones aside. The glass ones, keep juggling. We're not going to ever get away from having things to juggle in this life, right? And it's just a matter of what we let go and what we hang on to. And I know, Jimmy Lou, you have a big heart for helping people, and I do too. And I love helping like young moms. I'm currently, helping one, and then another one popped up, and I wanted to connect with her, and I just thought, she's got lots of people connecting with her already. And if another ball goes, that I can jump in and help. But right now I'm juggling a lot. So for me to step in and now help another one, I just don't know that I can do that unless I let something else go, right? And so as of right now, that door hasn't really opened to be really in her life, but I know she's got great people in her life. And so maybe that's okay. But I totally hear you. You want to help, but it's that, like, if you help too much, are you enabling them from helping themselves? Right? So I think, yeah, I've gotten stuck on that too.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. I just want to take like 2 seconds and this is not something we typically do, but I just want to take 2 seconds. I feel like we need just to stop and pray for Jimmy and for this particular thing. And then also for all of us as well. Heavenly Father, what's going on in Jimmy's life and in the life of this individual that she has been helping. God, I just pray that you would give wisdom, that you would help Jimmy to know when it is time to say no, when it's time to stop stepping in, God. But yeah, just ask for wisdom for her and comfort for when she makes the right decision, to know that it was right. And God, I also pray over all of these people, all these women today that are, I think we all struggle with this, the idea that Stacy just brought forward, the glass versus the plastic balls. God, we are all people with hearts to help. And so God, I just ask that you would give all of us wisdom in the weeks to come, just as far as when to say no, when to say yes, when you would have us step in, when you would have us be quiet so that the door can be open for someone else. Thank you for bringing this topic of conversation in today, Lord. And I just pray that we would move forward, again, being wiser, but wisdom not in the world, but wisdom in the way that you would have us be wise. Amen. Amen. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll keep on praying for you and that situation as well. So 27, is it time to speak up? You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing which you think you cannot do. One of the most common traits of effective leaders is their ability to effectively communicate in any situation. Thoughts?
I think this is, to communicate in that situation, right? And communicate effectively and communicate your heart effectively, you have to have vulnerability and authenticity. You have to, right? And that will make resilience. It just does it. Yeah, that was kind of my thought. You can't separate it. They're kind of part of a trifecta.
Mhm. Yeah,
And it's like a
absolutely.
muscle. You get better the more you do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that we learn in our leadership journey too. I know that there are often times where, for me, in the past, I've been leading someone and there's been something that has happened. And I've had this little thought like, oh, I should really say something about that. It's not like it's huge, like it's not a big deal, but you can see as a leader, having gone through those things, you're like, ugh, if we keep going down this path with this person, it's going to get to be a bigger thing. But then sometimes I think, but everybody's business is their own business. Not everyone's going to want to run it the way that I run it, or the way that Sharon runs it, or the way that Linda runs their business. Is this one of those things that maybe just needs to be left? And honestly, guess what? It's easier not to say the thing. It's far easier just to be like, oh, they'll just deal with it. It's fine. And this just really reminded me that it is really important to stand in, like Amy said, stand in that position of leadership. I am a leader. And so you can say to someone, do you have my permission? Or do I have your permission to speak into you for what I just see? Right. You can take it with a grain of salt. You can take it or leave it, but I'm going to tell you what I see. And most times people will say yes, because if they're in a growth mindset, right? And then you can just go forward and say, this may not be anything, but this is what I see for this situation. I've been through this before. I've seen other people go through this. I really feel like you're kind of taking the wrong turn with it. Would you consider this instead? Leadership comes with hard conversations, and we need to be willing to have them. Sometimes we can make stories in our heads and be like, oh, if I say that to them, they're going to leave. Okay, well, you know what? I'd rather have somebody leave because they're not willing to make good business decisions rather than stay and make really bad ones, because then everything just goes disastrously.
Anyone have any thoughts, first of all? That is not me.
I just was thinking that I've been trying to do a better job of tuning into those little nudges and saying, what if that's God speaking to me and I don't listen and I don't obey on that nudge? And so, like, even today when I was doing my yoga, I was thinking about one of my VIPs that I think she's contemplating moving on. And it came to me that I thought, I'm going to suggest another combo and just suggest trying it for 3 months. And if you don't notice a difference, then it's fine. You can look somewhere else. And I got thinking, I'm like, I need to send this, because this could be God giving me the solution to what she needs. And if I'm not bold and courageous in actually saying it to her, I could actually be stifling her health progress.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what resonates with me.
Yeah, for sure. Often those promptings are just that still small voice that we can just so easily be like, it's fine. Or, right. Like I love the way that God speaks to us in that way, right? Like, we don't have to listen. It is our choice. But I think you're right on, Trisha. Sharon, did you have something else to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think that this was necessarily the intent when she wrote it, but I actually thought the coaching toolkit that immediately follows this.
Love that.
I thought they're excellent prompts, right? For more authenticity. And is it time to speak up? Because the things that are really going to stick out to you, right, as you're reading that list and going through the questions, those are going to be the things that maybe you need to speak up about. Right? Maybe that's what's been really laid on your heart, what you're learning or what you have learned. And using that as kind of a guide, I think, this week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I would encourage everyone to go through that coaching toolkit if you haven't yet. Just kind of brings you back to the whole thing and full circle. And you know what? The other thing too is that I need to congratulate is the wrong word, but it's what I've got on a Saturday morning this early. Maybe recognize that you guys have been brave enough to ask yourself some of these questions. Maybe you haven't gone through the whole coaching toolkit, but you've given space in your brain to consider some of these things, and that's courageous. It really is. It is not normal for people to give this much consideration to their thought processes. It is the mark of people who are trying to like get better, who are trying to push forward, right? It's that, what is that statistic that they always say, like only 5% of people ever do any kind of personal growth work, right? Like, and those people might not even finish one book, right? Oh yeah, I did some sort of personal growth work ever. And you guys are really pressing into the hard. So I just want to recognize that. We are headed into part 2, which is business, career, and personal finance. And there's an introduction, but then there's also a career and money checklist. Did anyone have any interesting takeaways from like anything where you were like, okay, well, wait a second. I just realized that I don't do this, or hey, good job me, I do this.
For me, it shone a light on that I am a person in growth.
Remember.
Yeah,
like
in
that's
transition to being maybe more focused. It's because for me, honestly, for the majority of my life, I didn't think about any of it. Right. It's just now that I'm like, hold on here. And that's even before I read this book. There's a lot of these things have come into focus. And I just have felt like with me, with money and with business and stuff like that, God has been using life in general to say, it's time to grow up, girl. Like stop acting like you're in your early 20s, right? And grow up. So I'm learning.
Yep. It's humbling sometimes to see how many areas of growth a person could press into, but I'm choosing action and not paralysis. How's that? Isn't it great? All the ways I can grow. And I don't think, I want you guys to be encouraged too. If you're looking at the list and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even check I'm not checking like more than 5 boxes. Like I actually, the last checklist we did, I came up with a code for it. And it was like, yes, like proficiently growing in, or I need work, right? Sometimes it's not black and white. Maybe you're like, yeah, okay, I see where I'm getting better in this. I'm not totally there yet, but I'm working through it. So don't feel like you have to answer it totally black and white either. So
what are you doing?
the first chapter in this section, does anyone have anything that they want to share about that?
You promise to continue after supper? You promise?
I love, and here's something to consider. One of the questions, or one of the checklist pieces, is I feel the work I do matters. That's one of them. And the second one is I am never bored at work. Now we can put work in quotation marks if we're looking at this as far as Plexus goes, right? Because it's not work, it's not a job, you don't have a boss, like this is not the same, right? But I feel like those are 2 really important pieces. Do you feel like what you're doing matters? Or do you realize, and maybe that's it. Do you realize how much what you do with Plexus matters? Have you actually stopped and thought about how much your life has changed because of what somebody decided to share with you, and how much your life has changed because they decided to step outside themselves and share with you? And this is where this business changes from a hand-to-hand sale of product for money. Like I'm not, okay, I'll go back to my made up MLM. When somebody sells me a rock, right? The rock MLM, it's not going to change my life. That person wanted to sell it. They want to be the top rock salesperson in the country, and that's why they sold me the rock. And next month they're going to try to find another rock for me to buy, even though I already still have my rock. It's different than what we do. When we focus on the change in people's lives, and then we embrace the fact that we actually change lives, right? You can share with somebody, but then you actually need to be like, hey, hold on a second. I just changed that person's life. Like, that person is now going to the bathroom every day when they weren't going, like, once a week. Like, that's a difference in that person. I just changed the quality of that person's life through sharing them with them, something that could change things for them. Yes, they had to choose to take it, but recognizing your value, like Amy talked about at the beginning, I am a leader, right? Being okay to step into that. I have value. I am giving value to other people. The work I do matters, right? And really truly believing that, I don't feel like you can get bored in this business or feel like it's monotonous if you are actually embracing and allowing that to permeate your heart, that this actually matters. This has eternal consequence. Somebody who can be present for their children, it's not just changing their lives, it's shaping the next generation. It's being that parent that they've always wanted to be, having the energy, having the clarity, being able to be present for their friends, being able to have situations where they have to say no to because they actually have the energy and the bandwidth to do it. Right? Thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
Well, I just think like, yeah, we're changing people's health, but look at the people on this Zoom. We are changing our mindsets. We're changing the way that we are raising our families, that we are our mindset on just personal growth. And we're now taking that to our kids. Like, I even was talking with my girls last night about like leadership and being leaders in their schools. And these are things I never was taught. I was not taught to be a leader. I was taught to just kind of do your best, blend in, do the best to your ability, God is with you, all these things. But like, yeah, those are all true. But like, how do we take that to our schools and to our towns and to the places we're volunteering, whatever? Like, we get to create leaders in our communities. And if you look around the world, we are desperate for leaders that are leading with integrity and leading with goodness and truth. So I love that we're not just changing people's health, we're actually changing people's mindsets and their growth.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of myself being in a legging company and trying to figure out how this conversation would go. Like, do they, do you guys know what I'm trying to get to? It's like, I don't get it. I don't understand how, selling a pair of leggings it's not, it's for the moment, I guess you look good in those leggings, but I can't see myself as sharing those leggings and then just walking away from that person and not checking in on them to make sure that their leggings are okay. And how are you feeling today in those leggings? And, like, the connection, I just felt like pat, here you go, see you later. I don't feel there would be any growth. I don't feel like there would be any community. What's the point? Like, I don't know. I'd have a hard time just selling some leggings or
Rocks.
I don't know. Rocks. Yeah.
Rocks is easy. I don't think we're gonna ruffle any feathers with rocks, but
I know.
Totally.
I like leggings. I love leggings. They're awesome. But yeah, it's just
but nobody's ever, what you're saying is nobody's ever checked on you to see if your leggings are okay. Because that's where we're at.
Or that my makeup's okay. They, I just get it and then that's it. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm putting it on wrong. I could try to put it on and then do a picture on social media and
is this right?
And
then you're so
anyway.
Funny. You're so funny. Okay.
So my thought is just slightly smaller scale than that. Because I'm a food producer, primary multi-generation food producer, and not everybody eats the food I produce for a huge variety of reasons. We could get on them and talk about them all day, but just like Plexus, not everybody is there to have that. But even this person who is choosing to just take the products, just exercise a little more, they are able to function and communicate around them with that slightly smoother presence. Their day goes smoother because of that. But they're also seeing and interacting with their community on that higher frequency. They can go to work and be more productive because they can focus. And even just our kids taking their stuff and going to school and not creating a ruckus in the classroom and not being disruptive or that sort of stuff, that makes a difference for everybody in that room.
Totally.
So we can affect all of those places just by being a calm presence.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when we want to grow and do all sorts of things, whether it's grow in our business or personal development or spiritual development or learning how to communicate. We start our kids off by sending them to school to learn things. We're also then choosing to continue to learn, which is showing our kids that it's okay to learn in school and to continue to learn.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Are you equipped to handle change at work? Chapter 28. I have an interesting angle on this, but I want to hear from you guys. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. Point to ponder is resilience is the ability to effectively navigate the inevitable changes and setbacks of life. Increasingly, those who are most successful professionally are those who are most resilient in the face of an ever-changing workplace. When I was reading this, I thought about Deborah Denbach. I don't know if you guys all know who that is. She's an amazing ambassador in Team Awesome. And when we were going through the Rock Your Network Marketing book study, sorry, everything's always at the tip of my fingers. She was one of the leaders. And she actually shared that last year at convention when they talked about Reset, when they launched Reset, she had a really bad attitude about it because she was like, I don't do the weight loss thing. I don't know why Plexus would ever bring this in. This was her sharing with everybody, so I can reshare the story. And she kind of spiraled on it, and she was not impressed with it and whatever, which is, I mean, all of us now who have done Reset are like, are you nuts? Anyway, she was like, no, I need to think about this in a different way. And so she started to do the research. She started to realize, but this was after she let herself have a bad attitude for a little while, and she did the research, she pressed in, she checked to see why. And it totally changed everything for her. She actually became one of the top Reset salespeople across the board. And she saw a huge growth and has seen a lot of benefits in her business. She changed her mindset because of what she was reading. But it was a change that she didn't feel Plexus should have made, right? At the beginning of it. But then she chose to press in and ask questions as to why they would bring this forward. What are the benefits to it? I must be missing a piece, right? And so now that we're going into convention, we know that there will likely be a product that's launched or two, like, I don't actually know. I have some thoughts on what it could be. But some of us might be tempted to have that thought, right? Maybe Stacy thinks that we need to have a supplement that'll turn everyone's hair purple. And she's really excited about that. And then when it doesn't come out, she's like, well, what were they thinking? They need to be doing this instead of doing this, right? I've had ambassadors who have come to convention and have had this idea in their minds as to where Plexus needs to be. It's actually quite funny. Well, they should be doing this and they should be doing this. And I don't think that's anybody here, but being receptive to what is actually being prepared for us. And if you don't understand it, being able to ask why, Okay, so what do they see that I don't see? That's usually a question that I ask myself often. It's like, what are people seeing that I don't quite see yet? Right. So it's changing the attitude, right? And being grateful for, like, and that's the first thing here. Choose an attitude of gratitude. Wow, I'm so grateful that we're always on the cutting edge of science. And Plexus must be seeing something that I don't see. There's a need here. So we need to press into the research, right? Just kind of like Deborah did, right? She didn't get it. And so instead of just being, I'm not doing this, right? She chose to press in. But I also want to say your role as a leader, and if you're talking about Plexus in front of an audience, even if it's your social media, you're a leader. You don't have to have anybody on your team, but if you're talking about it, you are a leader. And your role as a leader is to understand, right? You need to understand that you have a huge contribution to make and to the people around you, right? So be careful and realize that even to your sidelines, I mean, to your downline for sure, to your sidelines and even to your upline, watch how you come to those people, right? Come to them with curiosity. Like, what do you see with this? Like, maybe you don't get it, right? I don't get it. What do you see? What did you see on this? Or, have good conversation, right? But be really careful about the tone that you approach things with your sidelines, with your downline, with your upline, because you have a huge contribution that you make. And you can affect other people while not meaning to. You can affect other people with your response to change. Does anyone else have a for instance with that? I do think it starts with really seeing, yeah, Sharon, I think it really does start with seeing ourselves as leaders and understanding that we have big impact. You're muted, so just unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it's like noisy breakfast going on over
It's
here
good.
too.
We love it.
Yeah. My thought is with that too, the reset's actually a great example of that too. Because for me, weight loss, like that's not my thing, never going to be my thing, whatever. Right. So that's an excellent example. And it's like researching, okay, why do people love this and what is this doing and how does this actually fit into gut health? But what I was going to say is I think part of being a leader and, when we come to change and things like that is being aware, because there's two personality types when it comes to change. It's the ones who always seek out change and they're changing everything all the time and they're seeking it out and they get bored really easy. And then there's the other where you're resistant to change, right? And it's just a thing. Neither is good, neither is bad, right? But being aware of which camp that's great. Which camp you sit in, right? What you tend to naturally sit in, and then resisting that or not resisting necessarily, but tempering that, right? And kind of filtering your thoughts through that. Because I know for me, I'm someone who I actually don't like change. I've had so much change in my life, it's all of the different things, moved so much when I was a kid, all of these things, right? I don't like change. I've had enough change, right? So I tend to go, my gut reaction is, why? Right? I've learned to keep my mouth shut, right? And am still learning that, right? Because I am aware that I sit into that camp, right? And I just would encourage like anyone who know where you are. Yeah, and then realize that that's going to affect your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else?
I was just going to say too, like for me, I've had to really grow in the area of having a critical spirit because I tend to be quick to criticize or quick to judge or whatever. And so that's definitely an area that I've had to work on. And yeah, I think the reset is a good example. And there are other products too that maybe we don't see the benefits or we don't like the taste of whatever. But I think it's important, like you were saying, Janelle, to our sidelines or uplines, whatever, there are people that do love it and do see the benefits. So share their stories. If you don't have a success story, I don't have a success story, amazing success story with Reset. I lost a little bit of weight, but I struggled with a couple other things with it. But I've seen so many other people have a good result. So share their story, like share the good science behind it. And rather than being like quick to criticize it, I think we can be quick to criticize rather than because of our one experience, rather than sharing the hundreds of others that are experiencing really good results.
Yeah. And I think that this also ends up being one of those traps where when you work with your friends or you work with people that you're really close to, I know that I have definitely fallen into this as well, where I haven't guarded my words when I'm with people that I feel safe around, especially in the company. And I don't realize that they value me really highly. And so I can actually influence how they feel, right? Or, maybe that person is dealing with stuff from their downline, or they're trying to figure out how they're going to pose things, instead of saying like, okay, I feel like I sometimes I feel like the best thing that I can say in a situation like that is, and this is just to trusted people, I'm not talking about to everybody, but to somebody that you trust in your business, if you have a question like this about reset or something like that, and you just say, okay, hold on, my mindset needs help with this. Can you explain this to me in the way that you have perceived it, so that I can try to switch my thought process? Because I'm struggling with this in this way. So I think always remembering that we have value in the relationships that we're in, and our responses will shape other people's views of things. Like, I mean, we could go way back to like shipping debacles and sign up issues and whatever, right? That's why, we really guard how we talk about problems. Not that we can't have problems, in every business has a problem, but it's, are you solution oriented or are you focused on the problem? And I think that it's always looking at things from a standpoint of being a solution seeker. So any other thoughts when we need to wrap this up? We're right at 10.
I will say one word: everything is figure outable. Everything. And when you have that type of attitude, I think it changes your perspective on whatever you're going through or dealing with in your business. I can tell you 100% that the reason why we are still here is because we figured it out. There we go.
Love it. That's brilliant wisdom to leave us off with. Everything is figure outable. All right. In saying that, we're figuring out how to do book club next week. We're not doing it because a lot of us are going to be away in Tennessee. There's supposed to be a corporate book club next week. So just kind of watch your emails, watch your text messages to see if that is actually happening. I don't know if that one fell through the cracks, but make sure that you are actually following along with the other people that are on this screen on Instagram and on Facebook. If you are not able to come with us down there, we will try to share as much as we can. But as always, we don't want to share everything because we want you there with us. And you just cannot possibly replicate everything that's going to happen there. So we will be thinking of all of you guys. Thank you so much for giving of your time today. I've really appreciated all of you and the comments. Recording should be up hopefully soon. So thanks, Sharon, for leading with me, and we will see you guys in 2 Saturdays. All right, bye.